Have you ever felt that,
Mm-hmm.
that charged electric energy? Like it has nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly stress, and it's not, like happy excitement either. It's just this hum.
Yeah.
I notice it sometimes when I'm stuck in a really boring meeting, maybe, and my leg starts bouncing, like uncontrollably.
Right.
Or when I'm trying to relax, say on a weekend, and I just can't stop scrolling on my phone. Not because I want to see anything specific, but just sitting still feels almost wrong, like a failure. It's this weird primal tension.
That's a perfect description. It's like the engine is running, but the car's not in gear.
Exactly.
And that feeling, that almost overwhelming need for discharge, that restlessness, that's really our starting point for this deep dive.
Okay.
We're talking about a core life force, something Freud called libido.
Okay, let's unpack that right away because, usually when people hear libido, they immediately think sexual desire. Purely that.
They do, and that's part of it, but it's much bigger.
So if we're linking it to the bouncing leg and the doom scrolling, we need a broader definition. Right.
Absolutely. Think of it less as a specific desire and more as, well, energy itself.
Raw energy.
Energy itself. It's this primal, shape-shifting force. It fuels practically everything you do. Your ambition, your creativity, your curiosity, even your anger, your capacity to connect with others, and yes, your sexual impulses too.
So it's fundamental.
It really is. It's like the motor of the psyche, constantly pushing, seeking movement, seeking expression.
So what happens then? If this energy is so fundamental, what happens when it gets blocked? When we're taught, maybe as kids or just by society, that parts of that powerful current are, I don't know, forbidden, wrong, shameful.
Well, that's the crucial point. It doesn't just go away. It can't just dissipate.
Energy has to go somewhere.
Exactly. It creates pressure. This is what psychoanalysis calls repression. And our mission, really, in this deep dive is to trace what happens when that powerful current gets dammed up. How does that life force, that libido, transform itself? How does it morph into symptoms, into behavioral patterns? Things we often mistake for just, our personality or our flaws.
Oh, that's just how I am.
Precisely. We're kind of looking for the hidden system, the ways our psyche tries to contain the things we can't consciously admit to ourselves, the shadow beneath the skin, so to speak.
That really connects to how the body seems to hold on to this stuff, doesn't it? There's this analogy like the house of your childhood.
Yes, that's a powerful way to think about it. Imagine that space, your childhood home.
Yeah.
You learn, usually very early on, that there are certain rooms you just don't go into, certain feelings or desires you definitely don't talk about.
Yeah, keep quiet.
And the door to that room, it isn't actually locked. It's more like it's sealed shut. And we lose all sorts of things as sealant. Shame is a big one. Morality, trying to be perfect.
Oh, perfectionism, definitely.
And maybe above all, just staying busy, distraction, anything to avoid looking at what's behind that door.
Right. We think, if I just ignore the feeling, maybe it'll just cease to exist.
But it doesn't work that way. The body knows what the mind tries to bury. That sealed off energy, that blocked libidinal current, it has to find an outlet.
It has to leak out somewhere.
It leaks or it transforms itself. It finds ways to surface, sometimes very subtly, maybe as this chronic background anxiety or a compulsive habit you can't shake, sometimes even as a physical ailment that doctors can't quite explain.
Okay, let's make this really concrete for people listening. Like, why does that sudden wave of irrational guilt wash over you the second you even think about sitting down and resting?
Yes.
Or why do you find yourself working until you're literally exhausted? Not even for the success, really, but maybe just to feel something. Anything other than that quiet, almost terrifying hum under your ribs.
These aren't just random psychological quirks. They're not just personality flaws. This is what we call the return of the repressed.
The return of the repressed.
The unconscious is, well, it's patient, it waits, it gathers pressure behind that sealed door. And then when the conscious mind, the warden, if you like, gets distracted.
Like when you're tired or stressed.
Exactly. When you're exhausted or maybe had a bit too much to drink or you're feeling vulnerable, that energy slips through the cracks. It surfaces, seeking expression somehow.
And it becomes a symptom because it can't be.
Yeah.
A direct expression?
It can't be a direct expression or maybe even a conscious thought or feeling a symbol, so it becomes a symptom instead.
Wow. Okay, the shift in thinking here feels potentially huge. Like, what if my chronic restlessness or that inexplicable anger that pops up, what if it's not some personal flaw I need to fix?
What if?
What if it's actually an unmet current, like a part of my own life, a memory maybe, trying to reach me?
If you can start to hold that perspective, even just consider it. It changes everything. You stop pathologizing the tension. You stop blaming yourself. The goal then becomes bringing the unconscious into dialogue with the conscious mind. Trying to understand what that symptom, that headache, that compulsion, that anxiety is actually trying to say, transforming it into a symbol we can finally grasp.
So it's about recognizing the energy isn't the enemy. It's just misplaced.
Beautifully put. It's simply displaced.
And the ways the psyche displaces this energy, that's where it gets really fascinating, isn't it? This idea of the plasticity of the drives.
Yes, Freud's term. It points to the sheer ingenuity almost of our unconscious, how this core instinctual energy seeking discharge will take practically any available route if the direct path is blocked.
And it creates these disguises.
Exactly. Disguises so convincing, so seemingly normal, that we mistake them for who we actually are, for our personality.
These are the masks.
These are the masks. They're often brilliant strategies in a way. Desperate maybe, but brilliant. Developed unconsciously to keep that core energy alive without breaking the rules. We learned the rules of childhood or society.
So if we can name the mask,
then we can start to see the difference between the disguise and the self underneath. We can stop confusing the two.
okay, let's get into them. Mask number 1. This is the one people often praise, right? Sublimation. You called it the saint who burns with ambition.
Yes, sublimation is often celebrated. It's the redirection of that raw, primal energy into activities that are socially valued, maybe seen as higher pursuits.
Like art, science, building a business.
Precisely. Art, science, political passion, creating a legacy, pouring everything into a mission. The person might say, I don't need messy romance. I have my work. Or my focus is my mission.
It's like alchemy, turning lead into gold.
It is the psyche's alchemy in many ways. It can be incredibly productive. But
There's a but.
what's the cost? I feel like there's always a cost.
The cost can be the desperation behind the drive. Think of the highly successful CEO who builds an empire, but literally cannot sit still for 5 minutes without checking email.
The project consumes them, not always with joy, but with this frantic, driven necessity. And then, when the project's finished, there's often this profound emptiness. Why?
Because the energy source wasn't really about the project itself.
It's because when sublimation becomes the only way you express that energy, you end up living in a world of symbols, and you might be avoiding the substance of direct feeling or connection.
Right.
Freud wrote about Leonardo da Vinci, for example. Allegedly celibate, profoundly inhibited in his personal life, apparently. But his genius wasn't just painting. It was this incredible energy pulsing through everything, his anatomical studies, his obsessive engineering sketches of flight.
The Mona Lisa's smile.
Exactly, that subtle, knowing quality. It was all genius, undeniably. But potentially fueled by displaced libidinal energy, by necessity, not just pure passion or choice.
Okay, so if sublimation pushes the energy outward into work or art, mask 2 is when it turns inward, repression leading straight to a symptom, the body that speaks.
Yes. This is when the body takes on the burden because the mind couldn't or wasn't allowed to express something directly. Maybe there was no safe language for desire or fear or vulnerability when you were growing up.
So the body holds it instead.
The body remembers. It remembers the trauma, maybe just a look of disapproval or a silence that made you feel completely insignificant. The libido, blocked from conscious expression, seeks discharge through physical channels, through somatic symptoms, dysfunction.
And we see this all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
Maybe in quieter ways than we realize. Like the migraine that reliably hits right before you have to give that big presentation where you feel exposed.
Yes, exactly.
Or the irritable bowel syndrome that flares up every single time you have to go to that difficult family dinner.
Classic examples.
And you try. Everything, diet changes, exercise, maybe medication, but nothing really fixes it.
Because it's not fundamentally broken in a purely physical sense, it's speaking. It's communicating a truth the conscious mind refused or couldn't afford to hold on to.
It's different from just stress then.
It's a critical distinction, yes. Stress is pressure, certainly. But a recurring symptom like this, it's often more like a language, the body trying desperately to communicate what was forced into silence.
Wow. Okay. Mask 3. Projection. The moralist who sees sin everywhere. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of us have probably been there, maybe without realizing it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very common pattern. It's that judgmental stance. You feel this intense, maybe even righteous disgust when you see someone else flaunting something. something you secretly crave or have pushed down in yourself.
Like what? Their freedom, their confidence.
Their freedom, their joy, their confidence, perhaps their overt sexuality, and you label them maybe just in your head, maybe out loud as attention-seeking, irresponsible, tacky, vulgar.
So that disgust is like a defense mechanism.
No.
Fortress.
It is. You can't tolerate your own disowned desire or maybe your own wildness, so you unconsciously expel it. You push it out onto others.
So you see it everywhere else.
Everywhere except within yourself. The judgment has to be sharp because it's fundamentally defensive. It's protecting you from confronting that part of yourself.
And underneath the judgment.
Beneath the moralizing, there often trembles envy, longing, maybe even a kind of grief for the part of yourself that got shamed into silence long, long ago.
And the irony is?
The irony is the universe often seems to throw your disowned parts right back in your face. That person you judge as overly flirtatious, they keep ending up on your team or sitting next to you at events, constantly bringing that suppressed impulse right back into your awareness.
Right. Okay. Mask 4 is regression. The confident adult who collapses under intimacy. This one feels familiar too. You know, the person who's incredibly capable in most areas of life. They handle a boardroom, manage a household, project total competence.
Completely put together.
But then, the moment real vulnerability or true intimacy comes up, they just seem to collapse. They become suddenly needy, maybe clumsy, or they cling too tightly. It's like they revert.
That's exactly what regression is. It's an unconscious retreat into earlier, more immature stages of psychosexual development. Or maybe easier to think of it as retreating to earlier emotional blueprints. Childhood coping mechanism.
So the capable adult self just dissolves.
It collapses because that moment of intimacy triggers an old, often ancient wound. Perhaps a deep-seated belief like, if someone really sees me, they'll leave me, or my needs are fundamentally too much for anyone to handle.
So it's not like they're choosing to act immaturely.
Not consciously, no. It's the psyche defaulting to the only coping mechanism it knew back when the original wound happened. It's an unconscious attempt, really, to get it right this time, to finally heal that ancient rupture by getting the childhood need met in the present.
But it comes out as neediness or clinging.
And that desperation, that sudden overwhelming neediness, that's the energy of the adult libido, but it's being forced back through the narrow channels of the child's patterns.
Okay, last one. Mask 5. Reaction formation. The ascetic who hates what they crave. This sounds like taking a forbidden impulse and turning it into its absolute opposite.
Precisely. This person doesn't just redirect the energy like in sublimation, they actively construct an identity based on the opposite of the desire they fear.
So they claim to have transcended desire altogether.
Yes. They might wear celibacy or extreme minimalism or a kind of hyper-rational emotional detachment like a suit of armor. They might dismiss emotional connection as superficial or call desire low vibration or something similar.
How's this different from sublimation again? Sublimation uses the energy for a goal.
Sublimation channels the energy into a different, often socially valued goal. Reaction formation uses the energy to build and maintain an identity that is the negation of the original impulse.
It sounds exhausting.
It is fortification. It's like building a castle on top of an active volcano. It requires constant vigilance, constant performance to maintain that opposite identity.
And the danger is?
The danger is that the underlying energy keeps building pressure. If that armor ever cracks, maybe under extreme stress, or unexpectedly, the eruption can be quite dramatic.
Like the famous guru having a secret affair.
Or the hyper-stoic person suddenly having a complete emotional breakdown. It happens because the true, suppressed desire has finally detonated through the defenses.
And when that mask slips, what comes out isn't necessarily the monster they feared.
Often what emerges is simply the self they abandoned long ago. The self that has wants and needs and vulnerabilities and desires. The human self.
Okay, so we've talked about these 5 masks, these disguises the psyche uses. What's the takeaway here? What does this mean for someone listening right now? It's not about ripping the masks off, is it? Or striving for some kind of psychological perfection?
No, not at all. That would be counterproductive, probably impossible anyway. The goal isn't removal, it's awareness.
Just knowing.
Just knowing which mask you tend to wear, maybe noticing when you're wearing it in a particular moment, and then maybe gently asking yourself, is this disguise still serving me? Is it still necessary?
Because repression without awareness.
Repression without awareness leads to feeling alienated from yourself. Your compulsions start to feel like just your character. That's just who I am. The aim of what psychoanalysts call the working through isn't to magically destroy the inner conflict. It's to illuminate it, to bring it into the light so you're no longer its prisoner, no longer controlled by it unconsciously.
So what's a first step? How do we start turning a symptom or a pattern back into a symbol we can understand? Give us something actionable.
Okay. The very first step is identification, recognition. So when you feel that tension rising, that restlessness, that anxiety, that sudden judgment, instead of immediately reaching for your usual distraction or justification, just pause.
Just stop for a second.
Stop and ask, which mask might this energy be using right now? Is this my ambition trying to protect me? Sublimation. Is this my inner critic lashing out because I feel envious? Projection. Am I retreating into helplessness because closeness feels scary? Regression.
Just naming it.
Just naming it. That simple act, I see my inner moralist is really activated right now. It starts to create a little space. It can begin to dissolve some of the shame around it.
And maybe the energy you're using to keep the mask clamped down,
Yeah.
that energy becomes available for something else.
Exactly. That's the beautiful potential here. The energy spent maintaining the disguise, fighting the desire, hiding the truth, that energy becomes available for actual presence, for creativity, for connection. The shame you carry might start to lessen as you realize, wait, this feeling, this rule, maybe it wasn't even mine to begin with. Maybe I inherited it.
Like a hand-me-down coat.
Precisely. A coat handed to you by someone else's fear or moral code.
And that's the homecoming you mentioned.
That's the beginning of welcoming the exiled parts home. The parts you pushed away are often just waiting, tentatively. The shamed inner child maybe just asks hesitantly to be held and accepted. The rigid moralist might soften into simple compassion, first for yourself, then for others.
So the fear that your desires will overwhelm you starts to fade.
It fades because you realize they didn't actually consume you all this time. They just held you together in these strange, often painful, symptomatic ways. You don't become some entirely new person through this process. You become more truly, more fully yourself.
And that original feeling we started with, that hum, that ache, that restlessness, does it go away entirely?
Maybe not entirely. Perhaps not, but your relationship to it changes fundamentally. Instead of seeing it as something wrong to be fixed or pathologized or distracted from, you learn to turn toward it with curiosity. That sensation, that little stirring beneath the ribs, maybe that tension in your chest, you start to recognize it not as sin or a dangerous temptation or just a distraction from important things.
What is it then?
It's aliveness. It's your life force making itself known. It's your own life trying to reach you, trying to communicate.
Wow.
And the beginning of a new relationship with that energy and with yourself isn't built on control or fear anymore. It's built on curiosity, on trust, on simply being able to say,
There you are.